Hi, I'm Christine and I'm a hair student and I'm still in my pajamas, but I gotta make this video before everybody in my house wakes up and then my audio will be all distorted because you can hear everything in the background. So here goes. When I'm working with clients, I have found a really common thing. There are people out there who know what they want and they're really good at describing things, but then there's people that don't know how to describe things because hair is not their thing. They're not really into it. They trust us. And so I've come up with a bunch of pictures and I've got some descriptions and I'm going to explain to you what these different words are that you can use to describe what you want. So this way you can leave the salon with what you want. So what you see here is layers. The difference here is number 1 has finer hair and number 3 has fuller hair. And it makes a difference when somebody has very thick hair. You're going to get more volume, it's going to get more weight, it's going to sit on top of each other. When somebody has very fine, straight hair, it's going to fall flatter. And then the difference is number 1 is styled outwards and number 2 is styled under. So the layers are it's just how they styled it. That is essentially the same cut. Number 2 has a little bit of a fringe there. She's got some curtain bangs there, where number 1 does not have any bangs. These are all variations of layers at different lengths. So some of these haircuts are essentially the same depending on how they're styled and your hair density. If you have thicker hair, you're going to look like number 5. If you have finer hair, it's going to look like number 3. And they've left it a little long at the back and then they've brushed it forward so that they could try to make it look like number 2, who has, fuller hair. Number 1, she's got very, very voluminous hair, and they've put a lot of layers in there to try to make her look like number 5. Number 4 is essentially the same thing, but they cut the bottom half off. So depending on what you want, if you want layers, you could have a little bit of a soft layer like number 4, or you could have very heavy layers like number 2. So number 2 and number 3 you could almost consider a shag. Number 2 and 3 both have a lot of face framing, and number 1 doesn't have a lot of face framing. She's very disconnected. We've got the bangs separate from the rest. These here could be considered more like a shag. Number 1 is very wispy and soft. Number 2 is a little bit more blunt. Number 3 is disconnected. And number 4 is almost a pixie with the back left long. These are could be considered a mullet in a way, but similar. And as for highlights, you'll see these are the different colors that the highlights lift to. Some lift a little bit and they're darker, and the lighter we go, the brighter level they are. So highlights generally will lift to like a yellow or an orange color, and then we have to look at the different tones and change the tone to something you like. It's so helpful to go by pictures and look at swatches, because you could describe this as light brown or dark blonde. Essentially, those are almost the same color. Verbal descriptions for visual things can be very challenging for people. You could look at these color swatches here, and some people would consider these golden blonde, and some people might consider them red. Somebody else might call them light brown, and somebody else might refer to them as caramel. If you want bold highlights like this, then you say you want some low lights with a lot of contrast. You want very chunky pieces, very bold. This is highlights with teasy lights, so they've made them very natural looking, so they blend at the top nice. These are very cool tones. You'll notice they're not bright, they're not golden, so this would be considered like thin, cool highlights. This here is a very soft money piece. She has more of it at the front underneath than on top. She's got some very thin highlights to blend it. This is, again, in the cooler range, but she's got a little bit of gold tones to it. I would say that's more of a sandy blonde. It's got a lot of softness to it. There's not a lot of contrast, just enough to make the front pop. So this here is essentially the same haircut, but before styling and after styling. Although this picture on the right is way fuller, so I think they've added extensions to that. Somebody on the left with very fine hair is generally not going to have a full voluminous look like that. They've added, they've back combed, they've added a little thing at the back to have something to stand up on, and they've definitely added something to the side. You can see at the sides of the first girl's face how fine the hair is, and in the second picture, there is a whole pile of volume. They might have even just taken some of the hair from behind her head and brushed it all forward to give her a more fuller look at the sides. Now, there's a lot of way to describe fringe, but sometimes people get a connotation with a word and they go, oh, no, I don't want curtain bangs. But they say, I would like short face framing, which essentially is going to create curtain bangs. So if you don't want curtain bangs, then you want to avoid those layers. You can see along the picture there the different types of bangs. You have something that's a little bit longer and you can still wear back. You got some that have the V shape there, so it comes down a bit, which might look a little more blunt for someone who's got a bit of a cowlick. That's going to lift up. If you have straight hair, that's the only way you can really wear it, if you straighten it every day. And then wispy is natural, and that's more like you have some layers, some short pieces that are just kind of hanging in front of your face. You've got like a choppy or a blunt bang, and that's just the straight across. And then the curtain bang, which is just more of a little swoop to the side, and there's asymmetrical. There's so many variations on bangs, and then you can take those and customize to each person. Everybody is going to look different depending on your hair density and hair type. If you have very fine hair, you're not going to get a very blunt, thick line. All right, so this is the last topic I'm going over today. I guess you could say we're going out with a bang. So take a look at these different types of bangs, and there's different words underneath that describe them, and that will give you an idea. Also, the different length will give you an idea. So if someone has a pixie cut, they automatically have bangs. You can see on the bottom left. So take a look at these. Okay, one last thing. When someone says they want curtain bangs or face framing, they could mean that they want either one of these. On the left, we have some bangs with the face framing coming down the side. And on the right, we have some face framing. Her hair is tied back, so you're only seeing the top pieces, but they do come over like a curtain. So it's important to understand what people want. And if you can look at the pictures, you can really describe to the stylist what look you're after.